you. So I believe that today is I supposed to be there at fourth day of your conference. Okay. So many of you have gone through regarding the IoT and their application. Okay. So today I will be presenting about role of IoT in a healthcare. Okay. So specifically I will talk about a healthcare domain where you can use the IoT. Some of the application where I am personally working, where I am using the IoT extensively, and we will means think about some of the issue also which are being associated when we apply IoT in a healthcare. Okay, so this will be the flow where we will talk about role of IoT to transforming our traditional healthcare to a smart healthcare. Then we will talk about IoT based smart healthcare modules, which we talk about M Health, C Health, E Health. Then we will talk about IoT based some of the application where personally I am working, and then I will talk about role of IoT along with ML during the pandemic time, where what we are facing currently in the COVID situation, and possibly at the end when we want to use such kind of application in our day-to-day life, then what are the challenges that we are facing? That also we will discuss. Okay. Now, when we talk about a traditional way, so then what is the traditional healthcare system what we have today? Okay, so if somebody is in a critical condition, then possibly he would be admitted in a ICU. So for a ICU patient, you require a one attendant who would take care of that particular patient for a 24 cross 7. Okay. Maybe in the absence of that particular supporting staff, or maybe a delay in a treatment for that critical condition, we may lost to a life of a person. Okay. Now, when we talk about the traditional healthcare system, then in a traditional healthcare system also, if you look at that, there are multiple stakeholders which are being evolved. Okay, like if I'm diagnostic with, or maybe I'm not well, then possibly I will visit a doctor. Doctor will give me some sort of laboratory trace. So for that, I need to go for a laboratory trace where I will carry out or where I will give my some of the samples. Then possibly according to the laboratory reports, the doctor will prescribe me some specific medicine. Then again, I will go to a medical store and I will purchase those medicine. Okay. Now, if you look at that, then here in a healthcare domain, there are multiple stakeholders are there, but they are not being connected with each other. That means that if I go to a laboratory, then I need to show the prescription of laboratory test that doctor has prescribed to me. Okay. Similarly, when I go to a purchase of the medical store, then in order to get some medicine, I need to also show the prescription or the doctor. Okay. Now, all these are not being connected with each other. And that is the problem in our traditional healthcare system. What we want in a smart healthcare, that all should be connected with each other. That means if doctor has prescribed me some medicine or maybe some laboratory trace, then that pathological lab or clinical lab should able to access those data. Similarly, I do not have to carry that particular doctor's prescription all the time when I go to purchase for a medicine. Even when we think about insurance claim, so at that time also there are some protocol that we need to follow, that one has to be there at a particular duration, and then one particular staff from the insurance company would visit it, and then he will verify your means condition. So over here, if you look at that, then ultimately they all are individual, are doing their job individually. Now what we want then they should be connected with each other. And if I will be hospitalized, then that data has to be accessible to an insurance company so that my insurance could be parked easily. Okay. So there should not be any delay for that. So now in a smart healthcare, we want that they should interact with each other, and we want to avoid this decentralized system. So we want to make it one centralized system where all will be sharing the information with each other. Now, why the smart healthcare is important? Okay. Now, what is the smart healthcare? Now, in a smart healthcare, we have a technology which is being provided by some smart sensor. Now, that smart sensor would offer a various benefit. Okay, they will able to capture the data continuously. Now, those data from the patient will be provided to diagnosis them. Now, even doctor can also remotely see those data. Nobody has to be present over there. Okay. We want the access of that data. So once the data is being captured, then we can put that data at the cloud. So once it is available at a cloud, then one caretaker or a doctor could easily observe those data, and according to that, he or she will provide the proper treatment. So remote monitoring of a health condition is very important. Okay. Now in a smart healthcare, ultimately it helps to have a continuous monitoring of our health data. It will also help to have some sort of automation. Okay. That means if in a critical condition, if some supporting staff is not there, then also I should able to view the condition of that particular patient. Smart healthcare would also help in a drug delivery mechanism. Okay, there has to be some mechanism through which I can provide the point of care service. Okay, if somebody's oxygen level is going well below, then possibly I can think about that to supplying the oxygen at that particular time only. Okay, then it can also help to have some sort of preventive healthcare mechanism in our day-to-day life. Now, whenever I will use the Internet of Thing in medical domain, then we used to call them medical Internet of Thing, or sometime people used to call them Internet of Medical Things. Okay. So in basically this IoT based network for a healthcare domain, it will provide us some useful collection of the data. On those data, we will analyze them and we can transmit it remotely so that the doctor can provide the proper prescription. Now, for the patient and clinician, these are playing a central role for tracking and preventing, especially for a chronic disease. Okay, so chronic disease are a disease which actually does not happen inside our body all of a sudden. Okay, like diabetes. If I consider a diabetes, then diabetes is a condition which will not happen all of a sudden. Okay, it will gradually happens inside my body. Similarly, cancer. So if I can get an early stage of the cancer, then possibly I can provide a better treatment. Similarly, some sort of kidney failure. So for that also, that long time observation is required. Okay, so this kind of diseases are a chronic disease where you require a continuous monitoring. You need to check all those data for over a period of time, and then you can actually take the better action to prevent those disease. So IoT would play a very important role where all this data would be captured from a patient through some sort of variable sensor, and those sensor will allow to store the data at a one particular cloud. Now those data, when I store a medical record on a cloud, then they are basically defined as a EHR, electronics health record. This electronics health record could be easily accessed by a doctor as well as some uh, caretaker of a patient, so that he can provide the proper point of care service to that particular patient. Now, when I use a IoT, okay, so ultimately in a IoT, basically we are heavily relying on a sensor. So that sensor is basically we consider as your physical entity. Okay, now this physical sensor capture the data, they will store those data to cloud. Now over the cloud, the data could be accessed by anyone. Okay. Now this whole system, we used to call them, is a cyber physical system where men as well as the data are being connected, and they can access the data at a remote location. Now in a cyber physical system, ultimately when I comply this particular system into a healthcare domain, then we used to define that healthcare cyber physical system or a medical cyber physical system, where we have some sort of embedded controlling devices which actually help to take some sort of decision over those electronics health record, and as well as it could provide the early indication or alert message for some sort of critical situation of a patient. Now we will talk about some of the components that we can have in our smart healthcare system. Okay, and of course when I talk about the smart healthcare system, then role of the IoT is very crucial, that we have observed it, that ultimately whatever the data which is being captured by a sensor, that has to be stored at a cloud. So that is very important. Now there are various components of a smart healthcare that we will see one by one. Okay, so smart healthcare, when I talk about, then the people used to define them as a S health. Okay, so in a S health, what happens that all these stakeholder, okay, doctor, technician, nurse, hospital staff, even the ambulance supporting staff, your means devices, your sensors, all are being connected with each other through a IoT network. Now the IoT has plays a crucial role to shift a paradigm from traditional healthcare to a smart healthcare that we define as a S health. Now this S health is having a different component like E health. Whenever I will be connected through a internet with the different stakeholder, then I consider them as a E health domain. When I use a mobile phone to connect with the others, then I consider as a mobile health. Telemedicine is one of the means evolving field which actually being we can consider as popular from past 1.5 years since the COVID, when actually doctor is also avoiding a physical meeting with the patient. So through a telemedicine concept, the doctor and a patient could be connected with each other at a remote location, and they can actually talk with each other and they can share their information. Connected health is also one of the important component where all the stakeholders are being connected with each other and they will share the details of a patient on a common platform which could be accessed by that particular limited group. Now role of a S health is a very important. Okay, so in a basically S health, the data is being stored at a cloud. Now that data which I consider as an electronic health record, now that record could be accessed with the help of the IoT structure by anybody, doctor, your caretaker, or maybe means your clinician. Okay, now on those data, what is the important that we need to derive some information. Now for that, what we can do that we can apply some sort of ML or artificial algorithm concept, and we can analyze those data, and then we can see the impact over a period of time, so that we can actually cure them at a proper time. Now, when we talk about the smart healthcare, then for a smart healthcare, these are the important parameter which one accept. Okay, then ultimately in a smart healthcare, when I consider a device, then device has to be connected with all the stakeholder all the time. Okay, it should also provide the quality of the content. That means whatever the sensor that is being provided, the data, that sensor should provide the precise value. Okay, of course it should not be any location specific. Like if I talk about, then in a during this particular time December, it is the weather condition at Jaipur is a different, and weather condition if I look at the southern region Tamil Nadu or Kerala, that is a different. Okay, so now whatever the sensor performance is there, that sensor performance should not be dependent on a location and the weather condition or a climate change. Of course, it should provide a very good sensing capability in all the environmental condition. It should be multifunctional, which is very important. Okay, so we do not want that so many sensors we need to wear in order to capture those particular physiological parameter. So now what we want, that one particular sensor should able to capture the multiple data of our body, so that we do not have to wear so many sensors. Okay, so that is very important. Now, when I talk about the characteristic, then characteristic of the smart healthcare is it should be sensitive, it should be personalized the data, it should be responsive, it should be adaptive according to the condition, it should be supported by some sort of intelligent mechanism, it should not, it should provide a transparency, anticipatory and ambiguity. So all these attributes I should expect from my smart healthcare system. Now, when I talk about the smart healthcare, then in a smart healthcare, ultimately the doctor and patient can be connected with each other remotely. So they actually feel like a physical presence, okay, and they can exchange the data very easily. Now, continuous monitoring of a critical condition is very important, and that could be supported by a smart healthcare. Of course, with the help of the smart healthcare, we can take some sort of corrective action and we can provide the quality of the care at proper time of the diagnosis. Since we have access of all the data all the time, so we can actually find out at which particular stage a patient enter in a critical condition. And if we can take a preventive action at that particular time with the proper steps, then we can actually save many lives. You can have an access of real-time data. That means I am able to observe the condition of a patient at that particular moment only. Okay, it is as good as you are physically present at that particular location and you are monitoring a data. So with the smart healthcare, the patient data is directly available at a cloud. So ultimately you can view the condition of a patient remotely. Okay, like a you are virtually present at that particular place. The proper point of care service and medication through some sort of intelligent consumer electronic device is possible with the help of the smart healthcare. Now, there are different sort of consumer electronics device are available for a smart healthcare. Okay, like some sort of smart watches are there. Maybe Apple watches are very famous, where it can provide the heart rate, your daily movement. Okay, so those are the consumer products are available in terms of the watch, ring. Maybe you can have a some sort of fitness tracker. You can have a some sort of smart clothes. You can have a some sort of smart belt, smart shoes, which actually take care of your daily activity. Okay. Now this kind of variable device has enabled the easier way to monitor a different physiological condition in our day-to-day life. Okay. So with this kind of devices, what we can do that in our daily routine only, we can observe our important parameter. Now, there are some sort of consumer electronics products are available which actually help us to capture the physiological parameter like EEG. So there are some caps are available actually which actually help us to capture the EEG data of a particular person. It is very important when we talk about to know about the mental condition of a patient as well as the ECG data. Okay, so that could be also observed with the uh, uh, smart healthcare via connection of the IoT. Now, these are the devices are available, but they are not much popular in our daily life. The reason is because these devices are not providing the precision and the reliable performance. Okay, since we are talking about the healthcare domain, so in a healthcare domain, whatever the data which is being provided to us, that has to be precise, because based on those data, we analyze through some AI techniques, we derive some information. Now, if this data is not precise, then whatever the information that you derive, that may not be a relevant to provide the proper action or to have a proper drug delivery mechanism. Okay, now when I use internet or ICT, okay, in healthcare domain, then we used to term them as a e-health domain. Okay, so information and communication technology has a main role to play in a e-healthcare. Now, we can provide a health information to a health profession through some sort of internet and telecommunication network. Now, this kind of health system has a challenge, okay, because when we want to, let's say that doctor want to adopt the telemedicine concept, okay, then there has to be some protocol and there has to be some law and governance so that they can actually feel free to provide such kind of support. Okay, so when the COVID has been arrived in means early 2020. So in a March April when it was a condition then when there was a sudden lockdown. Okay, so at that time the doctors were very reluctant to actually adopt the telemedicine concept where they can provide a prescription, that e-prescription to a patient. Okay, and as a patient point of view also they are also very reluctant to follow that particular medicine because we are habitual to have a one-to-one meeting in physical mode with a doctor. Now we are actually also not aware about such kind of technology. Okay, and even from the doctor point of view there are no certain protocol which are being placed. So we want that there has to be some proper mechanism through which such kind of ICT concept could be put in a practice where doctor and patient could meet remotely with each other. So telemedicine is one of the very important upcoming future where through some sort of telecommunication network or technology, the clinical health care could be provided by a doctor at a distance to a patient. Now, M-Health. So whenever I will use a mobile phone in my healthcare domain, then we used to term them as a M-Health. Okay. Now, mobile is we can consider as a one of the easiest way of communication with anyone. Okay. So in most of the country, okay, we expect that the 60 to 70% of population are having a mobile with the internet. Okay, so we can easily reach them through a mobile phone. So use of mobile phone could be in a way to collect the data from a patient or to provide some useful information to a patient through maybe some sort of SMS or some sort of social media platform like WhatsApp, Messenger, like that. Okay. Now, one of the such application was developed in way back 2014, M-Hero. This M-Hero application is basically developed by UNICEF during the crisis of Ebola in an African country. Okay. This mobile app through which they used to pass some important information to a African region to have some sort of preventive action against Ebola crisis. Now, of course, with the mobile phone, with the some sort of app support, you can have some sort of remote monitoring. You can also observe some vital sign of the patient, and you can also provide some sort of point of care service to a patient. Connected health. Now, this is also one of the important component of our smart healthcare. Now, here all the stakeholder, the patient, clinician, pharmaceutical company, your diagnosis center, your insurance company, all are being connected with each other. Okay. So here, this is, I mean by a connected health, where all the stakeholder are talking with each other. Okay. Now, this would be the reality in our country also in very soon. Okay. So if you remember that in a 15th August address of 2020, okay, last year, our honorable Prime Minister has announced that each and individual Indian would have a one digital health ID like a Aadhaar card. Okay, so Aadhaar card is the identity of a person. So similarly, there will be a health ID. Now against this health ID, you can observe the digital record of all the patient. Okay, so that means if I just access that particular health ID, then I can find out that particular patient data, previous, past, all the data is accessible to that. Now with that, what happens that if a doctor has prescribed something, then it will be available against your health ID. So with that, what would happen that if you go for a medical shop, then you do not have to carry the prescription of the doctor. Since the doctor has prescribed and entered your data onto a particular system, now that data is being stored at a cloud. Now those data is accessible to your medical store. So that will provide you the medicine, as well as for the laboratory, for the testing, you need to carry that which are the tests is being prescribed by a doctor. Now if those data is being entered, so what happens that laboratory will take care of those data, and according to that it will provide you the proper testing, and it will collect the required sample from a subject. Again, for the insurance claim, now currently there is a norm that you have to be admitted in a particular hospital for a some amount of duration. Then and then only your insurance claim could be passed. Okay. Now with the connected health, what happens that since that hospital has provided the data against your health ID, so insurance company can simply look at those data. They can certainly believe those data, and from that the insurance could be passed within a day also. So this kind of connected health is very useful. Now such kind of concept is already available in some of the states of the USA, as well as in some European country. Okay. Of course, in India, we could also expect that if we have a one particular health ID where the proper database of our health record would be managed, then this kind of connected health network could be also in a practice in our country in next 2-3 years. So M health, that means mobile health applications, are already we discussed that we can have a rapid collection and sharing of the data over a mobile phone. So even we can get the message of a public health and lifestyle over a mobile phone. We can also say have some sort of medication alert through maybe WhatsApp or maybe Messenger or maybe some sort of SMS service over our mobile. Doctor can also send a e-prescription via mobile phone. Telemonitoring. With that, you can transmit the patient result to a clinician. Transmission of the test result to a patient could be also help through a SMS. So some of the laboratories are there that they will provide you the lab report over a mobile phone. Okay, or maybe means they will provide some ID through which you can actually view that report from your home only. Okay, so that kind of practice is already in the place in our country. Now connected health will provide you the socio-technical model. Well, you can think about the proper health management with the ICT technology to provide a better point of service in a healthcare domain. Now, it is a technology enabled care which aims to maximize the healthcare resources and provide a flexible point of care service with the engagement of the clinician, and of course with the better self management. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, now we are in the era where actually we need to take care of ourselves only. Okay, whatever our dependency on the doctor, that has to be minimized. Okay, so we should also aware about our health condition, and we should at our own only we should take some proper preventive steps for that. Now IoT in a healthcare domain is very crucial. Now we have some of the sensor which we can wear, so like which can measure the blood pressure, the pulse oximeter, all of we know that we can measure our oxygen level. Pedometer will help you to actually find out that how many distance you have covered in a day. Then your smart bandage is there. So all this data is available at a cloud. Now this data is available for a longer duration. That means I can look back for my last week activity, and I will check it out that how much I walked at that particular day and how much I have walked today. Okay, so what is the improvement of my exercise period? So all these things I can monitor. So in that way, the IoT will helpful to have a remote monitoring and capturing our vital information. So with this, the first component is being completed by me, where I want to introduce about the role of IoT in a smart healthcare and what are the different components of the smart healthcare. Now we will talk about some of the application where I am working. So we will talk about healthcare or smart electronic system where we can use the IoT and AI extensively. Now, before that, whatever is being covered in our first part, if you have any question, then I will be more than happy to answer those queries. Okay, so maybe I can ask if you have any doubt so that I can resolve the query. So you can write down at a chat box. Yes, any query? I'm not sure whether I am able to see the chat box, but or maybe you can raise your hand so that I think something I have. I'm not sure, sir. I think how I can see the chat box. Sir, if some questions are there, then maybe you can read out for me. Yes, sir. Is there any doubt? Because I'm not sure that whether I'm able to see that chat over here. Yes, any doubt? Am I connected? Yes. Hello. Am I connected with you? Hello, sir. I'm not sure because I'm not getting any response. So I just feel that it is just a one-way communication. Yes? Yes? Or shall I move forward? Hello? 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 Am I audible? I can see Joseph sir, but I am not able to. Hello? Hello, Joseph sir? Or should I move forward? I am not able to hear you. Are you able to hear me? Yes? Yes? Are you able to hear me? Yes? If you are able to hear me, please raise your hand. I'm not sure. Hello, somebody has to respond. I think Mayank has. Okay. Okay, Mayank, thank you. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you. So maybe we can take the question at the last because I'm not sure that means whether your chat is accessible to me because I'm not able to find. But maybe we can take your question at the end. Okay, thank you. So now we will talk about some of the application where we can think about using IoT and we can manage our health in a better way. So one of the application where actually currently we are working, okay, where is a diabetes. Okay, when we talk about the diabetes, then diabetes patients, if you observe, then they are growing exponentially. Okay, so it has been doubled in a last decade. Okay, so currently we have around 470 million diabetic patient according to the database which is available in 2020. Now, if I am a diabetic patient, then for a diabetic patient, you need to measure your blood glucose. Okay. So ultimately you need to control your blood glucose because diabetes is a condition where your blood glucose will be in a higher range. Okay. So that is considered to be a diabetes. Now, once you encounter with the diabetes, then there would be some restriction in your food habits. Okay. And that you need to manage it with the proper diet control. Now, currently, we do not have any smart healthcare solution which actually help in such a large community of the diabetes patient to have a proper glucose management. So now, when we talk about the diabetes, then diabetes is considered to be a root cause of other disease also. Okay, it could means damage your nerve system. Your kidney disease could be also occur. Maybe you can have some sort of problem of the skin. Maybe there is a problem with the vision. The cardiovascular disease which actually prompt to a heart attack, that is also one of the effect from a diabetes. Okay, so if your blood glucose is high, then you can consider that your body is a root cause of the this many disease. Now when we talk about the diabetes, then diabetes could be observed with some sort of symptoms. Okay, that is excursion of a urine within our body from a short duration. Okay, the one can find out the hungerness and thirsty frequently in a day. You could have an unexpected weight loss, tiredness, and as well as there is a change in a vision. Your nerve damage, blindness, and heart disease could be also lead by diabetes. Now, if you are a diabetic patient, then probability of death would increase 50% than a non-diabetic patient. Okay, that means you are at a 50 percentage of the risk if you are being diagnosed as a diabetes. Now, according to the figure that in 2019, 69.2 million Indians are suffering from a diabetes. Okay, which are from a mainly type 2 diabetes. Okay, now diabetes is also having a different type. The type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes. Now, that third type of diabetes is basically occurs during the pregnancy of a woman where body is not able to generate the insulin. Now, we need to understand the balance of the insulin and the glucose inside our body. Now, diabetes is a condition where you have an excess amount of the glucose inside the body. Now, glucose is not at all bad. Okay. So, because of the glucose only, we used to perform our day-to-day activities. So, energy comes from the glucose. But we should avoid the excess amount of the glucose inside our body. Now, in our body, when we eat something, then inside our pancreas, there is an alpha cell and a beta cell. These two cells are responsible to balance glucose and insulin inside our body. Okay, now in type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which is a two different category of the diabetes, they are being differentiated according to the amount of insulin which is being generated inside the body to neutralize the excessive glucose. As I said that the excessive glucose is a problem. Okay, glucose is important. Lower value of the glucose is also again a problem. Okay, so we require a balanced amount of the glucose inside our body. This value cannot be go higher, If it is going higher, then we consider that as a hyperglycemia cases. Okay, so that is we are considered as a diabetes. Okay, so usually the blood glucose is being measured in a mg per dl. Okay, so whenever you go for a laboratory or maybe you measure at your home with some sort of device, the blood glucose always being measured in a mg per dl, or sometimes it is mm mole. Okay, but usually it is mg per dl. Now 80 to 150 mg per dl blood glucose is considered to be ideal for our body. Okay, so if your body glucose is in the range of 80 to 150, then means you are in a normal condition. Now that glucose value is also varying continuously inside the body. Okay, so if you go for a blood glucose test, then usually doctor will prescribe you to go for a glucose testing before fast. That means when you have not taken anything at that time, what is your glucose value? And once you take a meal, then afterwards what is your glucose value? So once you take a meal, then definitely through a glucose, your body will have a higher value of the blood glucose. But typically 80 to 150 range blood glucose is a good enough. If your blood glucose go lesser than that, then you can have some sort of mental problem, and even a person can go into a coma. Okay, so that means the glucose is necessary, but excessive or lower amount of the glucose, we should not go to that particular condition. Now in a type 1 diabetes, the body is unable to generate any kind of insulin inside our body. Okay, so that means if we eat something and through which the glucose is being consumed, then our body is unable to produce the insulin to neutralize that glucose. Now if you in a type 1 diabetes category, so at that time, since the insulin is not being generated inside the body, you need to take the insulin externally. So at that time, the people used to take the insulin dosage outside, from outside of the body. Okay, since the body is not able to generate any insulin. Type 2 diabetes, where most of the people lies, where body is able to generate the insulin, but it is not sufficient to neutralize my glucose. Okay, so in that case, what happens that the insulin is not sufficient to neutralize the glucose, then you will enter into the hyperglycemia cases. That is a diabetes. Okay, so now at that time, maybe you can take some sort of medicine, or through some sort of your daily routine exercise, you would be able to actually generate your insulin inside the body. Now this glucose and insulin balance is very important for a diabetes patient. Now we have actually think about of developing some sort of smart healthcare solution which actually help to have a proper balance of insulin and glucose inside the body of a diabetic patient. Now when you are a diabetic patient, then you need to measure your blood glucose daily, multiple times in a day. Okay, so ideally after every 5 to 6 hours, you should measure your blood glucose inside the body. Since the glucose value will vary time to time inside the body, you should be able to figure out the glucose value continuously inside your body, so that you can take a proper preventive action accordingly. Now if you are a type 1 diabetes patient, then for a type 1 diabetes patient, you need to take the insulin. Now that insulin, which amount you need to take, it is also very important. As I said that if your glucose value also goes beyond 80, then there is a problem of that person can go into the coma. So you should be aware about your glucose every time, ideally. Now currently the body glucose is being measured in a two way. One, through a laboratory based testing, where I will go to a laboratory, I will visit a laboratory where I will give them a blood sample. From a blood sample, they will able to measure the blood glucose. Okay, that is one method. Another is there are some self-monitoring devices are available which you can purchase. So over there also you need to have a one particular lancet. Through a lancet you need to prick your finger, and from that you need to collect your blood sample, and through that blood sample you can measure your blood glucose. Now in either of these method, ultimately you require a pricking of blood from a body. Now that is very inconvenient method. Okay, as I said that we should be actually measure the blood glucose every 6 hours. That means ideally 3 times or 4 times in a day we should be able to measure the blood glucose. But every time if I need to take out the blood value from my body, then it sometimes create a trauma or it is very inconvenient. And when we talk about this particular diabetic condition actually occurs inside the body with the age. So if you entered in a 50 60 or maybe in a 70, so at that time the multiple time pricking from a body is also very inconvenient. So what is the advisable is there has to be some solution through which we should able to measure the blood glucose non-invasively. When I say non-invasively, that means from a body surface only. I should be able to measure the blood glucose. That means without the pricking of the blood. Now, in order to adopt such non-invasive solution, ultimately we should able to identify that at which particular wavelength the blood glucose could be measured. Okay. So basically when we talk about the non-invasive method, then non-invasive method are mostly optical based. Okay. So where you can have some sort of light which you can incident on a body part, and from this light only you can able to measure the blood glucose. Now when I talk about the optical, then in optical also there are various source. Okay, like I can use a LED laser. Now for that also there is a optical wavelength is very important. So that means I should be able to first figure out that at which particular optical wavelength I can able to measure a blood glucose from my body. Now for that, what we have done that we have done some experiment at our laboratory. Okay, in order to detect the blood glucose. So what we have done that actually when a particular light is being incident on a blood glucose. So blood glucose is just a formation of CHO particle. Okay, so they are being connected in some sort of bond manner, and with that means the glucose molecule is being formed. So whenever the light is being incident on a that particular glucose particle, then that light will be reflected or it could be absorbed by that glucose particle. Okay. Now this light, whatever is being reflected and which is being absorbed, the measurement of this light intensity is very important. So according to this light intensity variation, we can actually measure the glucose molecule inside the body. Okay. So what we have done it for that we have used the refined glucose powder which are available at a medical store. Okay. So that we have dissolved in our distilled water. That means in a water sample, we have dissolved 5 gram, 10 gram and 15 gram means dissolved powder in a water, and then we have observed the spectra. So we have used that Parkinson lambda spectrometer, NIS spectrometer, which is available at our institute, and we have also observed a spectra of our clear water and a glucose powder. And with that, we have observed from a spectra that the glucose particle could be detected at a particular wavelength which is 940 and 130 nanometer. Now these two are a particular wavelength at which you can observe the different activity of the light absorption and a reflectance by a glucose particle. So that we have been observed. Now that we have placed in our practice. Okay. So what we have done that we have used the LED source of 940 and 130 nanometer. Now that light is being incident on our body part, and at the receiver end we are actually measuring the intensity of the received light. Now with the received light intensity we can measure the blood glucose concentration inside the body. Now if the light intensity is lower, that means whatever the light is being incident, that is being absorbed by a glucose molecule. Or similarly, the reflected light intensity is different than what is being incident. Now treat this light intensity, you could able to measure the blood glucose concentration inside the body. So we have used this LED sensor. So we have used the three sensor of 940 and 1300 for a reflect and absorption spectroscopy, and through which we are able to measure the blood glucose. Okay, so ultimately we are able to log the value of light intensity in terms of the voltage. This voltage value we are able to provide in a machine learning model. So with the concept of the regression, we are able to capture the blood glucose value. Now whatever the blood glucose value which is being predicted by our device, that we used to measure it with our standard reference blood glucose concentrator meter, that whatever is available of AccuCheck, that AccuCheck self monitoring device we are using, and we are comparing our result with that particular model, and we are able to get the around 80 to 90% of accuracy of the blood glucose value. So this is just a glucose characteristic with the NIR spectroscopy, whatever the experiment that we have done. So you just observe that there is a peak which is being observed is around at 940 and 1300, and that actually we have adopted in our experiment. So this is just our module that we have used it. So if you just observe it that there are three particular finger that we are using, and that data is being acquired by three particular sensor through this particular acquisition module. So this acquisition module that we have developed, now this module will give you the voltage value. Now that voltage value is being processed at a computer, and then it will generate some predicted value. Now that predicted value whichever is being generated through this Arduino node, that we used to supply it at a cloud, and that data could be viewed at remotely by anybody. Okay, so this three channel data from this three finger we are using it, and this two layer PCB we have actually use it in our experiment. So ultimately we are able to measure the blood glucose in non-invasive manner. Now invasive manner, when we talk about, then invasive manner f of two approach. Okay, one is you can go for a laboratory. In a laboratory you can go for a serum glucose measurement. Okay, so when you go for a laboratory, then they will take out the blood sample of a large volume, and they will store in a test tube. Okay, and that test tube they will put in a some sort of centrifugal pump. Or in that pump they used to provide some certain temperature. So with that actually your blood will be partitioned into the two group. One is a serum, and another is a that other particle which are at a higher. Okay, so this serum is very important. Through this serum actually whatever the blood glucose is being measured, that actually target the actual blood glucose value of your body. Okay, so definitely when you go for a laboratory, then you would able to measure the serum glucose measurement. Whatever the device which are available at our home through which we are measuring through this Lancet. Okay, so over there it would be able to measure the capillary glucose. Okay, where you do not have a, that is a separation of your serum part. Okay, so from that blood, that is the impure form, because in a blood you have so many components. Okay, and from that only if you measure your blood glucose, then actually it will not give you the exact value of the blood glucose. So that's why the laboratory based measurement is a standard practice where you can actually get your original blood glucose value. Now whatever the device that we have initially developed with three sensor that actually was able to measure the blood glucose. Okay, because whatever the model that we have calibrated, for that calibration purpose, we have used this kind of AccuCheck self-monitoring device. Okay, through which we are able to measure the capillary glucose value. Now, in our second updated module, we have used a laboratory value to calibrate our model. Okay, and with that, we are actually measuring a serum glucose value of our body. Okay, so that we consider as our updated model of iGlue. So whatever the device that we have developed, that we used to term them as a iGlue, that is intelligent glucometer. Okay, through this intelligent glucometer, in a first version, we were able to measure the blood glucose of a capillary, and then we are measuring a serum which is more precise. Okay. Now, the continuous monitoring and telemedicine would be possible with the help of this kind of device. Now, ultimately, we are wearing three sensor on a finger, and from this three sensor, we are able to get the glucose value of a body. Now, continuous monitoring is also possible. So you need to wear this particular sensor. So as long as you wear this particular sensor, you will able to capture the blood glucose of your body, that will be logged onto the cloud, and that could be viewed by a doctor or maybe your caretaker. Okay. So ultimately non-invasive would help us to go for a continuous monitoring where you do not want a blood pricking from a body. So continuous glucose monitoring is possible with our device. Apart from that, our device is being integrated with the internet, so that whatever the data which is being predicted by our device, that will be logged at a cloud. Okay, so that means I can store my data for a 10-15 days. Okay, from that 10-15 days data, I can observe my glucose fluctuation of the body, and I can take the better medicine accordingly. So that's what we have done. So this is just a concept that three channel data we have used. When 940 wavelength, we have used the reflectance and absorption, and 1300 we have used only absorption. So reflectance at 1300 we have tried it out, but it is not actually giving us the good result. So that's why we have omitted that. Okay, so this three channel data we have used it, and through a regression we can able to estimate our blood glucose value. Okay, now, so this is a serum glucose measurement. Okay, so serum glucose measurement is first over serum glucose non-invasive measurement is being developed by anybody. Okay, as per our knowledge, nobody has tried it out to measure the serum blood glucose of our body. Now, this serum glucose measurement is as equivalent to a laboratory based blood glucose measurement, which actually targeting a serum glucose rather than the capillary glucose. IOMT enabled glucometer will help you to actually provide the precise blood glucose all the time of your body. So we have done the experiment to different people. Okay, so that experiment is being done of a pre-diabetic patient, diabetic patient, healthy patient, and with that we have overall tested our device or around 100 people, and we are getting the accuracy close to a 90% in the cases. Now whenever you develop any blood glucose measurement device, then ultimately you need to validate it against the Clark error grid analysis. Okay, which is being developed by a Clark. Now if your reading is falling in this particular zone, so here you have reference blood glucose value that is being provided by a laboratory. Okay. And whatever the device is being estimated. So over there you will find out the error. Okay. And if your blood glucose of reference and predicted both are same, then ultimately you will get some sort of linear graph. If it is a linear graph, then it suggests that your whatever the solution that is being developed by you, it is clinically accurate, that you can put in a practice. Okay, whatever the device that we have developed through which 100% of the samples are actually in this particular zone. So this suggests that whatever the device that we have developed, which is clinically accurate. Okay. Now these are the some standard performance parameter that we have observed. So this is iGlu 1, that is our capillary glucose measurement non-invasive device, and this is iGlu 2, which is upgraded where we are targeting the serum glucose value. So where actually we are getting a very close approximation of a laboratory glucose value. We have tried it our model on a human, okay, and which is being tested against the blood sample, okay, and our device whatever is being developed, it is also very cheaper, okay. So there are some non-invasive devices are available, okay, even in India also in a limited way manner it is available. They are not popular because they are suffering with the accuracy as well as the cost wise, okay. So ultimately they ultimately cost you around 300 to 400 US dollar. Whatever we have developed, that will cost you around 70 to 80 dollar only, okay. So in around 5,000 6,000 range you would be able to purchase this particular device. Now what IoT role over here is that whatever the blood glucose value that is being measured by our glucometer, that is being stored at a cloud, okay. Now if you remember that in a type of diabetes, I talk about the type 1 diabetes where you need to provide the insulin injection inside the body, okay. So currently there is a practice that where you inject the insulin dose which is being prescribed by a doctor irrespective of whatever your current blood glucose, okay. So that means there is a some predefined dose that you need to inject inside the body, and accordingly you would try to balance your blood glucose inside the body. But ideally what should be the scenario? I should provide the insulin inside the body according to its requirement, and that requirement is clearly decided by whatever the present blood glucose value inside the body. So now what we have done it, we have integrated the insulin pump in our system. So whatever the device is giving a data that is available at the cloud. Now through this particular blood glucose value, the doctor will provide you a proper insulin dose. That dose will be injected inside the body. Okay, so we need to ensure that the proper insulin is being injected inside the body, and that control is being governed by a doctor, or maybe some caretaker or a hospital person will help you that for this particular blood glucose what will be the proper insulin dose that you need to inject inside the body. So in order to inject the insulin inside the body, we have actually developed the artificial pancreas where the insulin pump is being developed. So through this artificial pancreas, we are able to inject the insulin dosage inside the body. Now over here, IoT role is very important because through a IoT only, I am actually storing my glucose value at the cloud, and from the cloud whatever the glucose value I will control this insulin pump also at a remote location by giving the command to inject the proper insulin dose. So in that case the IoT role is very important over here. So ultimately the smart diabetes control is possible with our closed loop system. Why we are providing the closed loop system? Because we are able to measure the blood glucose, and accordingly we can able to secrete the insulin inside the body to have a proper treatment of the diabetes patient. So this is just means to showcase you that what could be the done that if you require inside the body there is a glucagon that is actually a culprit. If you have excess of the glucagon inside the body, then that lead to a diabetes condition. So ultimately it has to be neutralized by having a proper insulin secretion inside the body. So through some sort of insulin or maybe through some sort of food habit or through some sort of exercise, you can actually neutralize this glucagon inside your body. So this glucose insulin mathematical model is being developed, which actually help us to predict the blood glucose, which has to be injected inside the body. So there is a one FDA approved simulator, UA Padova is available, which is being already used by a several agency for a glucose insulin control. But we have developed our own model which give the equivalent performance of the UA Padova simulator, and this is being tested on a some of the subject also. Now, in this particular model, we have also considered a various parameter like absorption, glucose balance, what is your glucose utilization capacity of the pancreas, what is your renal excursion rate. So all these are being considered, and according to that we have developed a model for a type 1 diabetes patient. So ultimately what could be the case that through some sort of insulin device you can able to measure your blood glucose. Now doctor will give you the proper indication that what amount of the insulin that you need to take inside the body. So this is just our IOMT based framework. Okay. So where we can able to measure the blood glucose. Okay. Now according to the blood glucose, if it is within the range, then no need to worry about. Okay. If you are getting the lesser value of the blood glucose, then also there is a problem. Okay. So at that time, actually it is advisable to you need to take some sort of direct glucose form so that your glucose could be in an ideal range. Or if you have an excessive amount of the glucose inside the body, then maybe you need to take an insulin, or maybe according to the doctor prescription you need to follow the medicine. So whatever the glucose insulin model that we have developed, okay, so that is being developed by us in our MATLAB platform, where we have actually considered 4 different cases, and through which we are able to means provide the proper treatment of a insulin dosage to a type 1 diabetes patient. So this is just a self-monitoring device control. Over there, there are of course certain challenges which are available because we are using the IoT network, okay, where we are storing the data, as well as the insulin control is also being managed by a IoT network. So there has to be some security system, or there has to be some privacy mechanism so that our data will be intact as it is. So that also we have addressed, that possibly we will discuss at the end, where we have developed some small solution. Now another problem where we are working, where actually if somebody has lost his hand, okay, then how he can perform the daily activity, because hand is very important organ of our body, because through a hand only we can do our daily activity. Even you are taking your food through a hand only, okay, so hand is very important entity. Now if somebody has lost his hand, okay, and lost his limb, then also he should be able to perform its daily activity through a robotic arm. Okay, so there is a one robotic arm. Now how to control this robotic arm, that is the challenge. Okay, so if I want to, let's say that I need to perform the activity of hand open, hand close, or maybe if I want to pick up something, okay, then brain has to send some signal. Okay, if I am not having my hand, then brain is working. Okay, so brain could able to send those signal, but since we don't have hand, we are unable to perform those activity. But of course, if I have some artificial limb or robotic arm, then this particular arm control should capture our brain signal, and accordingly it should provide the movement. So exactly the same thing we have done at our laboratory, where we have developed a prosthetic arm. Now this prosthetic arm is being controlled through a brain. Now, now brain signal you can capture in a two way. Okay. One, you capture a brain signal at your head, that we consider as a EEG signal, and whatever the signal which is generated by a brain, if you capture at the muscles of your body. Okay, so for a hand we have a muscles, so that muscles, at the muscles if you capture those signal, then that is considered to be an EMG signal. So we have used the EMG based prosthetic control device. EEG based prosthetic control could be also possibility, but the only reason is EEG capturing is somewhat sophisticated. Okay, EMG you can easily capture with the very convenient way with the non-invasive manner. Okay, so that's why we have used the EMG signal to control our prosthetic arm. So EMG based prosthetic arm, there are some arm which are available. Okay. Again, the cost is a issue. They are available in 80,000 or maybe in 1.5 lakh range. Okay. But nobody will purchase that much of high cost robotic arm. Okay. But EMG based prosthetic arm which we have developed, that could be available in the market in a 8,000 to 10,000 range. Okay. So what is the overall concept is that whatever the EMG signal which is being generated, from that EMG signal, we are applying some sort of machine learning model where we have some sort of feature extraction. We can reduce the feature. Then we can actually able to classify the particular pattern for a different activity. Okay. So that means when I want to open my hand, then whatever the signal which is being generated at the muscles, it is different than when I close my hand. Of course, when I do some grasping, so at that time, whatever the signal which is generated at the muscle, those are different when actually I open my hand. Okay. So we are actually able to identify those muscles amplitude to have a different activity, and that we have considered in a classification model. So we have actually considered a 3-4 activity basically, where we have considered hand open, hand close, as well as grasping of the soft material and grasping of the hard material. And with that, we are able to capture the muscle signals which actually help us to classify this particular activity. So this particular potential we are able to capture, that we supply to a robotic arm, and we provide the proper command to have a according movement through a robotic arm. So that we have actually done it with the prosthetic people also. So during the training, actually we have used this kind of surface electrode. So this surface electrode will help you to measure your surface EMG, and through this we can able to do the movement of the robotic arm. Now this capturing of the EMG could be done through a surface electrode like this, whatever we have used, or maybe through some intramuscular electrodes, but that require a needling. That means you need to inject inside the body such kind of this kind of electrodes, and through which you are capturing your EMG pattern. But since we already discussed that invasive is not a convenient approach. Okay. So possibly through a surface electrode only, you can able to capture or able to identify the EMG potential for a particular activity. So typically EMG would be in a range of 50 to 20, 50 microvolt to 20 millivolt, and it has a frequency range of 50 Hz to 500 Hz. Now, whatever our brain, the brain is having a cortex. Okay, that is the main part of our body. So through this brain, the signal will travel to a spinal cord, and it will be available at these muscles. Okay, and this muscles is having a different muscle fiber as well as a motor neuron. Now we need to actually capture the potential at this particular point for a different activity. And for each and individual activity, the potential which is being generated at the muscles are different. Okay. And according to that, we can find out the intention of the person, and whatever the necessary command that we need to supply, we can supply it to our robotic arm. So that's what we have done it. So through a muscles, through a surface electrode, we are actually able to capture the EMG signal. Then we are doing some sort of pre-processing steps. Then here the machine learning model is there, where we are recognizing a certain pattern for a different activity. According to that, we have decided the feature extraction, and that feature extraction we are applying for a particular pattern to a robotic arm, and according to that, that prosthetic arm is actually able to do the particular activity for a upper limb prosthetic. So when you have an amputee, then you can also record the data from the amputee. Okay. Now we have also done an experiment on an amputee where we have considered that we have an amputee with where they have a one arm is lost and still their one arm is working. Okay. So for them, we are using some visual feedback mechanism in order to capture the data from an amputee. So what happens that we will place a mirror in between two legs of an amputee, and then whatever the real arm is there, through which we can ask to perform the certain activity. So what will happen that the amputee will look at the mirror, he will perceive that this particular arm is doing such a movement, and according to that the brain is generating some signal, and that signal we are capturing in order to provide the command to this particular robotic arm, and according to that we were able to generate the different activity control for a amputee. So this is just a proposed device where we are using some sort of DSP processor, and there is a one ADC, that is for analog to digital conversion, and then means we are able to do some 3-4 activities in a real time. Okay. Now over here also you can think about implementing some of the stuff on a FPGA, because feature extraction is we have observed is a time consuming process. Okay. Even your normal CPU may not help or may not be adequate to run your machine learning algorithm, sophisticated machine learning algorithm. So for that you can think about that FPGA could help you to process it fast. So we have actually measured the performance with the software in a hardware where we have actually used the VHDL based modeling and HLS based modeling. Okay. But with that, you just observe that the hardware based performance is always better for all the condition. Another problem where we are working extensively is a depression. Okay. Now depression is one of the leading, you can consider a mental disorder that will be observed around the world, which is a second most for a death of a people after a heart disease. Now 300 million people around the world are actually suffering from a depression. Now depression is also ranked as a leading contributor of a global disability with a 70.5%. Now according to the National Mental Health Survey in India, that 50% of the Indian are actually suffering from one of the mental disorder, and depression is one of the leading mental disorder of those people. So one of 20 Indian is having a depression related issue. Now depression could be measured by some sort of active device, okay, which actually measure the mood of a person. Okay. So those are the devices are available which actually help us. There are some research are also working on a depression based, or you can consider the depression detection through some sort of physiological parameter of a person. So one of the work which is being done where they are actually measuring a temperature, that is a body temperature of a person. They are also measuring a physical activity. So simple accelerometer will help you to have a physical movement of a particular person, and also you can go for a sweat analysis with your humidity sensor. So through a temperature, humidity and a physical movement of a person, you can develop a model which actually defines whether that particular person is depressed or not. So ultimately through this particular sensor, the data is being stored on a cloud. So the algorithm which is being designed, which works on a data available at a cloud, and through which it can define that that person is a stress or not stress. And if it is stress, then what is the stress value? Okay, because if you can diagnose a stress level at very early stage of a depression person, then you can actually provide the proper point of care, or even you can go for a counseling of that particular person. So this database is also again stored at the internet, which could be accessed by a simple mobile app, or maybe somebody can logged in to that cloud server and they can view the this particular database from a depressed person. Now on a similar thing, we also work on a depression where means we use the EEG, because we have observed the EEG could be the best biomarker to detect the depression. So through the EEG, we have acquired some data and we have done some pre-processing on this EEG, and we have developed a deep learning model which comprises of CNN and LSTM. So that is a hybrid model that we have used, because CNN alone, that is a convolution neural network, will not actually help you to capture the temporal sequence. So we have used the LSTM. So LSTM with the CNN will help you to classify whether this person is a depressed or a normal. So with that, we are able to get the 99% of accuracy. Okay. So that details are available. If you want to read it, then you can basically read our one of the paper which is being published. Okay. Now with this, the second module is being completed. Now, if you have any doubt, then maybe we can discuss it regarding this particular section at the end. So since we have, I think, around 30 minutes, so we can actually wind up our third module, where we can see the role of IoT during the pandemic. Okay. So here I have considered the case study of the COVID-19 only, and through which how actually the IoT based solution can help us. Okay. So we have seen the COVID-19 effect. Okay. So that is being generated through a SARS virus. Okay. Now diabetes patient are one of the main culprit of this COVID-19. Okay. So based on the initial data, that 20 to 50% of the patient who are admitted in the hospital, they are actually suffering or they are having a condition of the diabetes. And we have already discussed that how you can actually control your blood glucose with our non-invasive device. Now, diabetes is also a major risk when we consider the previous virus attack, SARS in 2003 and MERS in 2012, and even H1N1, which occurs in 2009. So diabetes patients are main culprit. Now, if you look at this, then in a COVID-19 patient, this diabetes is a contributing diabetic patient is contributing 10%. Okay, after a CVD patient. So it is one of the leading contributor of a COVID-19 patient. Now, why these diabetes patients are much affected by a COVID-19? Okay, so ultimately diabetes is a condition, is improper glucose level inside your body. Okay, and if your insulin is not adequate inside the body, that means the glucose is being increased inside the body, and this kind of virus actually would be easily joined with this ACE receptor, that is a one kind of protein which is available inside the body, and they can easily bind this protein to our body. Okay, so ACE2 receptor rate is higher inside your body when you have a glucose higher. Then 10 to 20% of the binding affinity of this SARS virus is with this glucose molecule. So because of that, the hyperglycemia cases, which we consider as a diabetes, are a main culprit of this particular virus. Now, for that, you should have a aware about some sort of self-care device. Okay. And mostly the self-care devices in a present technology is connected with the IoT. Okay. So you should be aware about the technology also, that how you can use such kind of, or how you can adopt such kind of IoT based devices in your day-to-day practice. Of course, they will also help you to manage your diet plan. Of course, there are some legal and economical barrier, so that we are not using it in our day-to-day life. Okay. So we also want a proper guideline to use them, and government also ensure that such kind of devices are available at a cheap rate to a common people so that they can use it. Now another solution that it is being developed by our team is for the COVID-19 patient. Okay. So we have developed one of the band which is we are defining as a easy band. That easy band is a device which actually a COVID infected people has to wear. Now this band is having a three indication: green, red and yellow. Okay, red suggests that you are a currently COVID infected people. Okay, green suggests that you are having no more COVID now, and yellow indicate that you are actually in a touch of the COVID-19 infected person. So if you are being infected by a COVID, then you need to wear this particular band, which we term as a easy band, which is we consider as a safety aware device. Now this band for a COVID infected people will indicate a red color. Now the color of this particular band is changing automatically. It is not in a hand of the patient. So if my COVID quarantine period, so we all know that COVID impact will last for a 15-20 days. So if a 20 days is over of infecting COVID, then automatically this band will indicate a green color. Okay, that means you are now free to move. Now, once you are in a green color mode, and if you are in touch with somebody which is having a COVID, okay, the band which is indicating red, then automatically your green color will be shifted to a yellow color. To give you the indication is somebody is COVID-19 patient which is around you, which is at a distance of 6 feet. Okay, so that we have considered 4 meter. Okay, so that is 6 feet to 13 feet distance. There is some likely a COVID patient is with you. Now this device is also capturing a device ID of all which you with you in a close contact of this 13 feet. Okay, so this will also help you to have a contact tracing. Okay, so initially when the COVID happened, so at that time the contact tracing was the one of the way to find out the infected person. Okay, now this particular device will actually store the database of the device ID of all these easy band. Okay, now we are considering that each and individual easy band is having one unique device ID. Okay, through which we can identify, like mobile phone. So I have one particular mobile number through which one can easily identify that this is the person which is having a mobile phone. So similarly, this easy band with a unique ID is provided to a one particular individual through which you can trace out that particular person. So this data is being stored at the network through IoT, and over there the database is being created. Now this is having a somewhat similar functionality with the Arogya Setu. Okay, so in fact this device whatever we have developed, that is in early days of the COVID-19. Okay, that is in a May we have published this article. So at that time Arogya Setu was also not there. But even though the Arogya Setu is there, but there are some limitation with the Arogya Setu. Okay. for the Arogya Setu, one has to ensure that the Bluetooth is on for all the time. Okay, so that is also consuming a power. So with that, the people are not actually now using the Arogya Setu with the making a Bluetooth is on. Even if somebody is not having a mobile phone, or if the mobile phone is in switch off mode, then also it would be very difficult to actually trace out with the help of the Arogya Setu. In the Arogya Setu also, you need to provide the self-assessment form. Now, obviously, the people which is infected by COVID, he may not be able to he does not wanted to reveal this information through Arogya Setu, whether it is being infected or not. Okay. So this band is very useful in such a condition. Now diet control is very important. Okay. So what you eat, that is very important. Now we have actually seen some of the application which is being developed, which actually help us to have a diet control. So one of the application which is developed as a iLog, which is being developed by a University of North Texas group, where what it can help. Okay. So whenever you try to eat something, at that time, this app will help you to provide you the details that what amount of the nutrition that you are going to consume. If if you are a diabetic patient, then such kind of food at this particular stage is advisable to you or not. That is being defined by this particular mobile app. Now, how it works? Ultimately, when you are eating something, you need to capture the image of the food. Now, that image will be compared with the standard database. So, in the database, we have stored all the images. Okay, so not we, actually that group has stored all that images. Now it will compare with those images and it will automatically give you the calculation of what amount of nutrition that is being consumed by you. Because more so ever, whatever the food item is there, if you are purchasing any food item in a packed food, then on a packet, it will be written all these things that how many nutrition value you are going to consume by having this food. Now, similarly, that could be done with our normal food item, with the vegetable as well as your fruit item. So, whatever you are going to consume, with that consumption, what amount of nutrition that you are going to get. If you are a diabetic patient, then whether this such kind of food is advisable to eat at this particular moment for you or not. Okay. Similarly, it will also help you that if you consume this particular food, then what will be your ideal next diet plan. Okay. So if I eat something and with that my blood glucose is going to be shoot up, then what could be your next food item that you need to take it at the evening so that your diabetes could be in control. So your glucose insulin balance, how you can manage, that could be helped by this kind of app. Now telemedicine, we have already talked about lot about the telemedicine where the doctor and patient can be connected with each other rather remotely. Now through the teleprescription, the doctor can provide some sort of medication and according to that the patient will take some sort of preventive action and then it will work out. Now role of telemedicine is very crucial in a social distancing practice where actually doctor and patient do not have to meet physically. Robotic based application is very important. Okay, in specifically in COVID-19 situation. Okay, where actually we want to avoid of touching with each other. So in a tourism and hospitality sector, the role of the robotics would be very huge in upcoming days. Okay, where all things will be managed through a robot. Now, robot was used extensively in some of the applications like collecting a sample from a COVID-19 patient as well as for a sanitization purpose for the food delivery. The robotic based robot have been used extensively in a COVID-19 and we are projecting that this kind of robot could be play a crucial role in our upcoming future life also. Industrial phase 4 based solution would also play a very huge role in your day-to-day life in a pandemic situation. Okay, certainly during the second wave we have observed that there was a scarcity of a oxygen cylinder. Okay, so if somehow there is a shortage of one particular resources at a one particular location, then we can easily exchange the data and we can make a manufacturing faster to that particular resources, so that we can actually get out of these particular shortages. So this kind of intelligence technique would help with the data processing to go for a smart manufacturing. Some sort of smart transportation could be initiated, and with the smart production we can of course boost the capacity of our production. Food supply chain management is also very crucial. Okay, so actually we are living in the era where we are actually worrying about our immunity. Okay, because immunity is our strongest weapon to withstand against this COVID-19 infection. Now, what is important that whatever you eat, that food is also a trusted or a original food. It is not a, you can consider, is a unauthenticated or malpractice food. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, so now there has to be some sort of solution which help us to establish the trusted food supply, so that I can actually check out that at which particular time. That means I can observe the whole cycle, that for this particular food which I am consuming right now, when it is being produced at the farm, where it is being packed and processed, when it is being reached. Because when we talk about a food in terms of the vegetable and fruits, it is having some life cycle. Okay, so you need to ensure that whatever the food that you are consuming, it is in a proper format, so that it will boost your immunity. Okay, so if you are not taking a authenticated food, then ultimately it will reduce your immunity. Okay, so currently the means lots of the advertisement that you will observe that the actually food items are being sold according to that laws, that they will provide you the immunity to your body. But if that food item is not in a proper format, or it is not being consumed in a proper time limit, then it could have an adverse effect in your body. Okay, so this trusted food supply chain management is also one of the upcoming area, where at the end when I am eating that food item, I can look at the data history of this food item. That means when this food item is being produced at a farm level, when it is being packed, and when it is being transported to this particular location. So through which I can actually find out that whether this particular food item is good for me at this particular moment or not. Now, lastly, we will talk about some of the challenges that we face when we adopt a IoT in our healthcare domain. So, of course, privacy and security is one of the upcoming challenge when we want to use IoT in our healthcare domain. Because whatever the data which is being stored, according to that we are taking action. Now, if this data is not in a proper form, then it could lead to a different effect. Okay, because this data has to be secured. Nobody could able to access apart from the authenticated user. So security and privacy is very important. And as we are talking about the health related data, Rekha, we should have a proper mechanism in order to place it in order. IoT devices also lack some sort of data protocol and a standard. Okay, so that has to be also overcome. Of course, we are living in a digital area where cyber crimes are increasing day by day. Okay, so since it is a personal health information, So government also has to place a proper law and order so that this kind of personal healthcare record could be stored securely and privately. And if somebody will try to access those unauthenticated data, then there has to be proper law for the punishment of them. So in order to avoid the cyber crime, as I said that there has to be some proper law and order. Hacker can also file a fraudulent insurance claim. So there has to be also some mechanism to identify them. Of course, we are talking about the sensor. Okay. And that sensor is being placed in terms of the medical devices at a remote location. So privacy and security of this medical device is very crucial. So we need to also think about the hardware security aspect of this device. Okay. Because these devices are generating the data. If somebody has done some malpractice and provide a fraudulent device in an IoT network, then it could actually mishap your whole the network. Okay. So there has to be some mechanism for a data integrity. So whatever the data is being captured by those sensor, those data is only being stored at a cloud. Whatever the data is being stored at a cloud, privacy and security of those data is also very utmost important. Access control and authentication of this cloud data is also very important because we want to monitor those data and we need to provide the proper treatment whatever the data is being stored at the cloud. Power management is also one of the crucial factor. Okay, because with the IoT, what we want that this sensor should capture the data 24/7. Okay, but of course that sensor is a battery operated. Okay, because we are thinking about the portable devices. So those are a battery operated. So we should have some sort of power management mechanism so that we can adopt it in our IoT network so that it can be helpful to our healthcare domain because we do not want that we need to charge those particular devices maybe 2 or 3 times in a day. Okay, so power management is very important for this kind of device. Interoperability. Okay, because IoT would be a heterogeneous network. Okay, there could be a different devices which are having a different manufacturing company. Okay, or maybe I am operating then with a different device. Like Philips has provided me some device through which I am capturing the data. That data is being stored at a cloud, but through my Samsung mobile, I am just controlling this. So here there are different devices are being connected with each other. So there has to be ease of interoperability among the devices. So that aspect also has to be considered. Now, at the last, just I will briefly talk about that one of the hardware security solution that we have developed for our diabetic control mechanism, where we have used the PUF. PUF stands for physical unclonable function, which is you can consider the upcoming security solution which we can adopt in our IoT based device. Okay, it is a very low cost solution and it will provide a low power because for a IoT network we require a sensor. Okay, that sensor is very tiny in size and also it is having a very limited power capability. So this physical unclonable function could provide a very good solution for our hardware devices. Now this physical unclonable function is basically a concept of challenge response pair. Okay, this challenge response pair is similar to your input output of your truth table. Okay, this challenge is nothing but my input which I apply to my hardware and it will generate some response in terms of the bit. That is my output. And this challenge response pair is unique for each and individual hardware. Okay, because this response bit is being generated according to the delay which is being introduced at the hardware level. Now, when I manufacture a one particular chip in a one particular laboratory, then because of the fabrication variation, you will not find that that particular chip, if it is being fabricated through a same process, through a same lab, it won't be having a same delay. Okay, there will be some micro or nanosecond delay which would be observed in the device. That you can exploit it, and that is a concept of your physical unclonable function. Okay, so it is something like that each and individual device is having a puff which is there inside their chip, and through which you can actually finding the authenticity of that particular hardware. So I am not actually defining each and individual term, but it is inexpensive solution that you can apply. So one of the puff device or circuit could be implemented with simple 2 cross 1 mux. Okay, we all know the functionality of 2 cross 1 mux. So what could be happen that I can have a challenges which actually supplied to a selection of this particular mux. Now according to this 1-0 pattern, the one particular part is being selected from this particular mux. Okay, I apply a one particular pulse over here. Now according to the part which is being selected, this pulse will reach at this particular two input of a D flip flop at a different time. Okay, because the path that will follow is a different, and of course this mux is also possessing a different delay because of the manufacturing variability. Okay, so it is something like that. If I ask a two person to run on a same track, then one of them will reach first and another one will reach later. So similarly, this pulse when I apply to choose the different marks, because of the variability of this particular marks, the one of the pulse will reach over here first and second one is a later. If this upper one is reaching first, then I am defining that output is 1. If lower one is reaching first, then I am defining output as a 0. So this way the challenge response pair is being generated, and that actually help us to identify the hardware, and that actually we have used it for our non-invasive glucometer as well as the insulin pump to find out the hardware security of those particular devices. So at the end, we would like to conclude that ICT technology along with the IoT will play a crucial role in a smart healthcare development for a healthcare cyber physical system. Now such kind of intelligent algorithm with the help of the machine learning would have a major impact in upcoming days to transform our life from a traditional to smart healthcare. Such kind of smart healthcare has, of course, there are some challenges like we have observed that privacy, security, power management, interoperability, which we need to address as early as possible so that such kind of application we can adopt it in our day-to-day life. Thank you all. So with this I am ending up our my session. I would be more than happy to take out the question. Maybe we can allow sir to ask them their question, because I'm not sure that how I can access the now chat box. It is not visible to me to access. So I'm not able to see their chat, but possibly you can help me to read out those if they have anything, or maybe we can allow the participant to ask their query. Yes. Maybe sir, you can unmute that particular participants manually if they raise the hand. Yes, any doubt? Presently, I am not able to see any hand which is being raised. I am not sure if you have written your question at a chat box, but unfortunately, I am not able to see the chat box right now. Okay. So yes, Joseph sir or maybe somebody else would help me to find out these cases. Or Alok sir, maybe you can means read those questions if anything is being raised by a participants. I would be more than happy to answer those queries. Okay, no question. Yes, Alok sir, is there anything at the chat box? So shall we consider the end of the session? If there is no doubt, because I can see there is no